All right, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, before we get going, I'm going to ask all of you if you cannot send me any kind of text messages while I'm up here, because when you're doing the whole hosting thing and you're moving around, and all of a sudden you hit this big wall of text, it can really throw you off. So if you have any messages like that, if you could please send them, save them toward the end, I'd really appreciate that. That would be awesome. And also, if you could stay off of the stage area here, this way nobody really blocks this big display behind me, and gives me a little bit of room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? Now, also, you're going to notice in your menu wheel on the lower left, all that collection of circles down there, you're going to notice at the very top of that is a microphone icon. And when that microphone icon is clear, that means we can hear everything that's happening in your environment, right? It kind of looks like this. And we've gone ahead and we've gone to turn that to red. This means that you mute it. So if somebody comes into your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? Don't worry, we're not going to hear any of that. So feel free to answer them. Likewise, if you have a dog barking in the background, maybe it's a Chihuahua because we were just talking about that. And, you're not going to face social ruin back at the campfire by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time. But just because you're muted does not mean you can't express yourself. You're going to notice that there's a pink cheeked smiley face in your emoji wheel. And when you press on it, your emoji panel opens up in front of you, kind of like magic, right? And gives you a wide variety of options with which to present, which to present. Well, actually, there's no presentation stuff here. Gives you a wide variety of options with which to express yourself there. Now, say just share something like really deep and powerful and meaningful, and you feel it building up inside you. You can just let it out and just let it flow just like that, right? Maybe I got some backup dancers backstage, right? And, they come out and we break into It's Go Time, the musical. And, you're all very impressed. You can throw up the applause and I live for it. Take a moment to drink it all in because it feels good, right? Also, if I ask you guys a yes or no question, you can say yes by smiling like this. You can say no by frowning like that. And maybe I say something funny. And if I do that, you can throw this laughing emoji up. It indicates that you're laughing. And then there's this thing. Right. This thing is like probably the most distracting of all the emoji choices available. And that's why I like to use this as a way for you guys to signal me in the event something goes wrong. So if my voice gets really like super choppy or something like that, or the moderators have had, more than they can take, and they'll, set the stage on fire behind me and I don't see that, that's the kind of thing I like to know about when that happens. So, go ahead and please let me know if something like that goes down. There's also an X in the middle of that emoji panel, and that will close it. But it's a good idea to leave it open during events like this because, really it gives me some feedback. It lets me know how I'm doing. But more importantly, it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing. So if the person next to you starts going like this, that means they found something funny, right? And you may not agree. You might be like, well, that's not funny at all. I'm going to go stand over here. And you can do that because this is VR, except maybe you can't stand really right here because, as we discussed, you're going to stay clear of that stage area, right? All right, cool. Now, Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but all are welcome. So if you're on another device, please feel free to hang out. You may pick up some useful tips and tricks and stuff like that that'll really help the Go community in Altspace because there's a lot of Go users in Altspace. There's still more arriving each and every day. Hey, Paul, I see you waving. We'll be taking questions and comments at the end there. So just keep that in mind there. You might be asking a question, which is cool, but hopefully we'll, get to that. All right, now let's see here. Now, being on an Oculus Go in Altspace is, it has its challenges. And speaking of challenges, I've been in bed for about 2 years due to a medical condition, right? It's gotten a lot better, but back when my Go first arrived, I could not wait to get this thing on. And I had been reading about Altspace for a while. So when I first came in, I was super psyched, right? And I first come out of that load screen and I looked up and I looked at the sky, and the sky looked a lot what I remember a real world sky looking like, right? And I was grateful for this. I was so grateful that I started volunteering for Altspace pretty much that first day. And when I got to the event to help out, I found that my battery wasn't strong enough to make it through entire events, right? So I would kind of disappear before the event was over. I'd have to charge up and I'd have to come back into Altspace and try to see if I could find the event host and, apologize for like flaking out. And in that way, I got off to kind of a rough start here, right? So I started asking questions. I started asking like, how can I improve the performance of my device? And and the answers I got to these questions are eventually, what led to this event. But when I started asking those questions, I heard a bunch of things. Like I heard that I wouldn't be able to use this laser pointer on an Oculus Go. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. I absolutely could do that. These slides behind me right here, right? I was told that I wouldn't be able to operate these slides on an Oculus Go. And that also turned out to not be true. And I was told that, my device would be reliable enough for me to host events, even though I have a background doing this kind of thing in the real world. And, and so when I was, hearing that, I was discouraged. But you know what? Not only did that turn out to not be true, right? But I've done over 300 events in Altspace, and more than half of them were done on an Oculus Go. I like to think pretty well. And and you can too, right? All it takes is just a few small adjustments to your device, and you'll be able to get it to perform a lot more reliably. Now, there's two paths you can take to do this. You can work with the device that you already have on your head. So before you even leave here today, you may, you'll be picking up some information that's going to improve your experience right away. But you can also upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. Now, I say it that way. If you've ever been here before, I can't stand this term. Sometimes on the Altspace Discord and places like that, you're going to see people use terms like, they'll say inferior device, say weaker device. And it never feels good to hear about this, especially since you paid, good money for your device. And you hear this kind of thing, and it cannot feel that great. It's important to keep in mind that there's another term that gets thrown around Altspace a lot, right? And that's communities. Now, there's a lot of rich and diverse communities represented in Altspace, and and the truth of it is you're the most important part of that community, not the type of equipment you're using. So the headset on your head doesn't really matter as much as what's inside of it. And so keep that in mind. Like if you hear terms like this, that you're not your device any more than you are your house or your car. And as far as I'm concerned, speaking of cars, my Oculus Go, it's kind of like the way I feel about it, the way most people feel about their first car, because really it's a great entry level device. It gets you acclimated to VR at your own pace. I mean, I'm on a Quest now, but if I had started out on a Quest, I wouldn't have stayed. Now, on a Go, you're able to not have to worry about vertical height, and you don't have to worry about the complexity of two controllers. And it's a really great way to get into VR at an affordable price, and it's just really a great device. Now, that's not to say it doesn't have its problems. It does, and we're going to talk about how to fix those. All right, the first thing I'm going to talk about is, listen, your device is going to lose power even when it's not in use, all right? It's always checking for app updates. It's, checking for firmware updates. Maybe, it's got a pen pal on the other side of the world. Maybe your headset has a whole secret life you don't know anything about, and that can be devastating to find out something like that. But if you put your headset down with 100% power at night, by morning, it's going to have less of a charge. Now, this is important because when you in Altspace, if you have, say, like a 20% charge, you're going to notice that your screen is going to flicker a lot, and it's not going to perform as well, right? So you're going to have to make a special effort to make sure it's fully charged when you come in. And the best way to do this is to take a look at altvr.com at the event schedule, and you see, whoa, look, Go Time's going up tonight, right? I've heard great things about the host. I've heard he's got this hair, I've heard he's got the jacket that you're starting to see everywhere, right? And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to plug your device in about an hour before the event starts. This way, it'll ensure that you come in on a full charge and your device will perform better, right? You also have it so that, you can, let's see. Oh, yeah. When you first put your device on your head, the first thing you want to do is, that middle power button, right? That middle power button that you press. If you press and hold that button, right, for about 4 seconds, right, when you first, and you want to make this a habit, when you first put it on your head every single time, you press and hold that center button. And then after about, 3 or 4 seconds, you'll see these 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you. And that middle button is a restart button. Now, when you press that restart button, the device is going to clear out all these temporary files. So all the app updates it was looking for, all the firmware updates, all these temporary files are going to get cleared out. I like to think of it as clearing my mind before I come in. Now, then you enter, the load screen and you come into Altspace. And once you're in here, you may have noticed what an important role body language plays in Altspace. Like if you're at an event like this and a moderator comes up to you, right, and they start shaking their head like this, and that means don't do that thing, right? Or maybe I'm up here on the stage and somebody makes it up here next to me, right? And I turn around and I go like this, and I don't have to say a word for you guys to know that means get off my stage, right? So, but you're going to find occasionally on an Oculus Go that your real world hand might be right here, but your avatar's hand might be way up here. And when it doesn't match, your body language is going to be much less convincing when that happens. Right now, the way to resolve this, if this happens to you, is you're going to notice that on your controller, you have your trackpad, and then below that, you'll have a button, and then on the very bottom, you'll have a button. That bottom button, don't press it now because it'll disappear. I'm really going to feel it. But you got to think of that like an eject button. It's the best route out of Altspace, right? Now, you also have to keep in mind that it does something else. If you hold your hand at your side, kind of bend your elbow in like this, right? And look straight ahead and press, and this you can do now. If you press and hold that bottom button and don't let go, a white circle is going to spin in the air in front of you, and then all of a sudden your hand is going to snap right into place, right? And then take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? Now, if it is, then you're good. You could, and if not, do it again as many times as it takes for you to be comfortable, because only you can determine what's comfortable for you. All right. So we're going to take a look at that now. Occasionally, you are going to notice that the menu wheels in your lower left there, those collection of circles there. Occasionally, you can notice that moves around every now and then. Right. Like sometimes it'll drift right in front of you, and it's going to make you feel a little bit off balance. Right. Occasionally, it can drift behind you, and you won't even be able to see it. And you're like, where'd my main menu go? I don't see it anywhere. Where is it? Right. Yeah, it's important to remember that on Oculus Go, your main menu is in your hands at all times. right? Now on your controller, just below your trackpad, that middle button, that's actually your main menu button. So you don't actually need that blue button. You don't ever have to press it again if you don't want to, right? What you can do is if you lose your main menu or that, your emoji panel or any of that stuff, all you have to do is look straight ahead and press that middle button, and your main menu is going to open up in front of you, right? Now, if you press it again, your main menu is going to close. Once that menu closes, if you look down to your left, you're going to find, hey, my main menu button is back exactly where I want, where it's supposed to be. So if that happens to you, that'll take care of that. Now, another thing that can happen every now and then is, let's see, well, I lost my place there. Well, that's not good. Okay, well, he said, hey, all right, cool, all right, awesome, all right. Now, every now and then, like you're going to notice, oh yeah, the best piece of advice I ever got when I first started out in Altspace was, I was looking for, ways to improve the performance there. Somebody told me to turn my brightness down. I didn't want to do it. I want to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace. And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up, like retina burning levels, right? And it was painful, man. Like it was really uncomfortable. But you know what? My graphics were awesome. That's how I thought, right? What happened was I figured I'd give this a try to see if I can improve my battery life. And so what I did was I went into my main menu when I first put my headset on, like, the Oculus home screen. Down in the lower right, it says settings, right? Or, so I pressed on those settings. And right in the middle there's an area for brightness. Now, when I pressed on the brightness, I turned off the auto brightness so I could adjust it manually. And there was this big blue bar there. And every single time I came into Altspace, I would turn that bar down a little bit more and a little bit more until finally I came into Altspace one time with the brightness completely off, and I could not believe what I saw. Right back then, I was helping out at this event, and it was I helped moderate and stuff. And they had this tree over in the corner, and I was looking at the tree as I walked up, and all the moderators would gather there at the very beginning of the event to kind of catch up and trade stories and stuff. And I would walk on over there, and all of a sudden I just stopped, right? And I looked up, and I saw that tree that I'd seen so many times before, and I couldn't believe how realistic it looked. It was amazing. So if you turn down your brightness like that, you're going to enjoy better graphics, right? Your device is going to perform better, but most importantly, your battery is going to last longer. And at that point, I started making it through entire events in Altspace, and you can too. Like you just turn down that brightness, and it'll really help a lot. Now, around that time, I started to become aware because people started hanging out after events, and I was able to hang out, and you see more, how the community interacts with each other. And well, around that time, I became aware that Go users didn't have the best reputation in Altspace. Now, the reason for this was because, listen, the microphone on the Oculus Go is very powerful, right? And as such, the sound, when it comes out of your ear straps there, it's picked up by your microphone and it gets projected out into Altspace. Now, the problem is we don't know what we sound like in Altspace. I had presented for events in here for about a year before I ever knew what I sounded like. You guys look up behind you and you see Raven and I floating in the air there, right? Wow, you guys are all like very organized. Look at you. They're all like in rows here. It's like a military operation. But yeah, if you look at Raven Eye up there in the air, that's our YouTube channel. And you'll know, if you want to wave out and feel Altspace famous, you can do that. We got Morgan Forrest here. We got Chicken Croissant here. We got Spider Kid 27. We got a lot of people there. We got Shane in here. We got Steve in here. So if you want to feel Altspace famous, feel free to wave there. But before I got the YouTube channel, I didn't know what I sounded like in Altspace. And what can happen is you can be standing around talking to your friends. Like I've been standing here talking to Chicken Croissant here, right? We're having a good time. Chicken Croissant, did you hear that thing that Spider Kid did? It was amazing, right? Not that that's a copyrighted infringement, but it was amazing, right? And all of a sudden I hear this voice. Sounds like a gifted presenter. So if I turn and I look, right? And I hear my voice coming as somebody else's avatar, right? And that's what happens, right? And there's a sound delay, and that sound delay can cause, it sort of has the effect of somebody copying you. It can really throw off a conversation. So what you can do to help this is on your headset at the very top left, you've got these two buttons. The leftmost button is the volume down button, and right next to that is the volume up button. And when you press either of these, you're going to see these vertical bars appear in the air. Some will be solid and some will be clear. What you're going for is 4 clear bars on the right side. Right, this is going to set the volume at such a level that the microphone is not going to pick up the sound from the straps as easily, but it comes at a price. You may find yourself straining to hear people. But what you have to remember is that you still have one good hand in the real world. And you can use that hand, right? All you have to do is cup your hand to your ear, and try this now. Cup your hand to your left ear, just like that, right? And you're going to find that the sound of my voice increases as I speak without you having to adjust the volume at all. Right now, one thing that'll actually take care of this even better is if you get a pair of headphones and attach them to your device. A pair of inexpensive earbuds will work also. That's the route that I took. And once I did this, I found that the only voice coming out of my avatar was my own. Right now, occasionally you'll still hear a family member come in and say, "Are you still on that thing?" And the best way to handle that is to get them their own headset. This way, you can bring them into VR. It's a lot of fun when you see somebody in real world in VR because you can see how their body language is similar and familiar. It's kind of a neat experience. I can't recommend doing that enough. But yeah, but around this time when I did this, I started wondering, what else can I add to my device that's going to improve its performance? And I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience. Now I call it this because I would go to, performance intensive worlds, right, that were really advanced, and I would watch my fellow Go users, they disappear as their devices would crash, but I would remain after making the changes I'm about to discuss, right? But to discuss these changes, right, I like to say that, I'm going to have to talk about these products behind me, and I like to say that the products don't actually matter. It's the ideas behind the products that matter. Right? So if you find another brand or something like that, please feel free to do that and come back and tell us about it. I love hearing different approaches that people took. I only recommend these products. These are the ones that I personally use and I have experience with them. All right, and I know and I feel comfortable saying that they do absolutely work. All right, and this is going to solve a lot of the performance problems that you're going to have on a Go, if you take this route. All right, and also, listen, the temptation is going to be to write stuff down. All right, that's kind of difficult to do with your headset on, so we try to make it as easy as possible. So if you go to altvr.com and you go in the upper left, you're going to see a link for channels, right? And when you click on this, you're going to see all these Altspace event channels. There's a lot of great content in Altspace. And down toward the bottom, not that that means anything, you're going to see Ravenhall events, like it says in the sound booth there. Right now, when you click on that, you get taken to our event channel, and there's a lot of neat stuff on there. Right on the left-hand side, you're going to see all these products listed behind me if you want to try those. Right, you're also going to see down toward the bottom a join Discord button if you'd like to say hello, have questions, or maybe help us put on events like this. Right, and then in the upper right is the most important button on the internet. It's a subscribe button, and when you press it, Altspace knows that you enjoy our content. Right. And also, we don't get paid to do this. So every time we see that number goes up, man, it feels really good. Not as good as when our YouTube channel goes up, though. When we get more subscribers, we love that. And speaking of YouTube, listen, if you're watching on YouTube and you want to try on these products, you'll find the links in the description below. Okay. And get that out of the way. All right. Now let's talk about what these things do. The Anker Power Core battery pack is that top product, and I figured that this would solve my power issues, right? Because Oculus says that we shouldn't use our headsets while they're plugged in, but they say it's fine to use an external battery pack. So I figured I'd start there. But around the time that I ordered it, I'd heard that a lot of people were having problems charging their device. You guys ever notice, like, when you plug in your device, how tight that wire is? Now, all that wear and tear, especially if you're coming into Altspace a lot, you're plugging that thing in every day, sometimes more than once. All that wear and tear is going to make it charge less effectively, right? But the thing is, I found this middle product here. It's a MagSafe cable, and the great thing about this, it has a tip that stays inside your device, so it gets plugged in, and then the other end of it gets plugged into that battery pack there, right? And it's held in place by this magnetic connector. And what's wonderful about this is it's a great safety feature. What you're going to find is that you have, let's see, what's my place? Oh yeah, well, it's a great safety feature so that when you're in VR, like if you say move your head suddenly, right, and it pulls on that wire, your headset is not going to get yanked down as your world turns upside down, right? What's going to happen is the wire will just pop off, and you don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. All you have to do is just pick up that wire, hold it near your headset, right, and it'll kind of thunk into place. And if your microphone is open, your friends are going to hear the sound, and they're going to be like, "What was that?" And you'll be like, "That was pure power. That's what that was." And you don't have to say that. It's not going to make it work any differently. It was just something I like to do. But this solved my power problem in Altspace, and it made me aware of a brand new problem. At least for me, it was. I started overheating all the time. All right, now the faceplate on the Oculus Go is installed by hand, so people have different experiences with this. Some people, they overheat every half hour. I knew a guy that overheated every 2 minutes or so, but for me, it was about 20 minutes or so, right? And it would always happen that way. And so when I started asking questions about how to solve this, and I heard a lot of people were putting ice packs on and they were putting frozen peas on. I don't recommend doing anything like this because it creates condensation in your headset, right? And when you do something like that, I mean, listen, you can do what you want, put water and electricity on your face. It's probably not a good idea. And the people I know who try this, right, they went through more than one headset. And what I do recommend doing, though, is this bottom product here. It's called an AC Infinity Mini Fan. It's really small. It fits in the palm of your hand, right? And so this silver part facing your faceplate, all right? And then you have to figure out how to attach it, right? Now, a lot of people use different solutions for this. Some people use string. I used an oversized hairband on each side, or wrapped those around the ear straps there, and then kind of made an X, and it wrapped around the rubber feet, right? And then I came into Altspace to test it out. Now, that day, I was set to moderate at the meditation event. I don't know if you've ever guys have been to that, but it's on top of a mountain. There's like this, fog and coming down with the sunlight coming through. It's just a nice space. But every time I was there, 20 minutes into it, I would always overheat, right? So what I did was I went up, in with the fan on and all this stuff on, on my head. If you ever seen Star Trek, I felt like a Borg, right? With all those wires coming down. And, which you do get used to that, actually. But I walked up to the host, Jeremy, really nice guy, and I said, "Can you hear my fan?" And he goes, "Not at all." I thought that was great news. So I turned it up to medium to see what it would be like. And I said, "Can you hear it now? And I can hear it a little bit, but it's not too bad, right? So I turned it up to the highest setting, and before I could even ask him, he goes, "You want to turn that down?" He says, "It sounds like you're in a wind tunnel." So I figured that was bad, right? So I turned it down to its lowest setting, and spoiler alert, I never had to turn it up again. This is what happened. The event started, and 20 minutes into the event, where it would normally overheat, I didn't. And then the event finished, right? And I wanted to see where the line was. How far can I take this thing? So I went to another event, and I made it through the entire event. That's 2 events in a row, right? And I didn't overheat once, right? It was great. And then I went to another event, 3 events in a row, didn't overheat at all, right? So then I went to my home space. I started hanging out with my friends, and then it finally happened, all right? I left Altspace for the very first time by choice. I didn't leave because I had to. I didn't leave because I was overheating. I didn't leave because I ran out of power. I left because I actually wanted to. And it was the first time that ever happened before. It would not be the last. After that, I became super involved. I started moderating all the time. I started hosting all these events. I was everywhere. And my device was super reliable. And yours can be too. You just have to make a few small, inexpensive changes because none of this stuff costs very much. You're going to find that this USB mini fan here, this costs about $10 or $11 US. This MagSafe cable cost about $7 US, and this Anker Power Core battery pack, it got probably the most expensive thing up there that cost around $30 US. And you don't have to get that size. It comes in different sizes and capacities. So maybe you're only in VR for a few hours a night, and you can get by with maybe a smaller charge. This one lasts about 16 hours. All right, and it's a really good battery actually. Can't recommend that enough. But that's not to say that there weren't still problems being on a Go in Altspace after that. There were, but these can be managed. These are more like annoyances. All right, let me tell you how to get through some of that. Right, like let's say that I'm standing around and I'm hanging out with everybody, and I go to turn left to say something to chicken croissant, but instead of turning left, I go straight, and I think to myself, well, that was weird, right? And then I go to turn right to say something to Shay over here, but instead of turning right, I go straight again, and I'm like, well, that was really odd, So then I press down on the down button on the trackpad, and instead of going, backwards like I'm supposed to, I go straight again. And I'm like, what is going on? And I start banging on all the different trackpad buttons. And no matter what I do, I keep going straight. And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. Let me tell you something, people. There is nothing more frightening than standing inside of an admin. When I was in there, I saw the past. I saw the future. I saw things I can't even talk about. It keeps me up at night. But I can tell you how to take care of this if it happens to you. All right. On your trackpad, you're going to notice that if you take your thumb, right, because your trackpad is sensitive to heat, moisture, and of course touch, right? But if you put your thumb on it without pressing down, and you gently glide your thumb from right to left or left to right, it doesn't matter. You can actually reset connection just by swiping it across like that a couple of times. When you get to the other side, lift your thumb up into the air and cross it over in the air, and then gently, without pushing down, swipe it again. So basically what I'm saying is if I go to turn left, all right, but instead of turning left, I go straight. On reflex, I'll go swipe, 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 and then I'll go to turn left. Right, and after a while, this will become a habit, and it'll help you move around a lot more effectively if you find you're having movement issues on your Go. All right, now another thing that you should keep in mind is every now and then you're going to put on your headset, right, and you're going to get a message that says can't find controller. Now, this can mean you need to change your battery in your controller, right? But let's say that you put a fresh battery in it last night, right? So it's not that. Well, you still see this message, and what's going on? I mean, your controller is no longer talking to your headset. I mean, maybe you found out about its secret life and it's not too happy about it, right? Because, as I said, that can be devastating. But what you want to do, if this happens to you, all you need to do is remember 2 words, all right? And that's double down, all right? And now what I mean by this is if this happens to you while you're at that main menu, just press and hold the 2 buttons on the bottom of your controller down at the same time for about 4 seconds. After about 4 seconds, a little white light's going to appear on your trackpad. But if you're wearing your headset, you're not going to see this. But what you will see is after those 4 seconds, after you lift your thumb back up, right, you're going to notice that you've got your hand again, right? And you're going to come onto that load screen and you're like, man, I am glad I went to Go Time. That Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about. He told me to double down, right? And now I'm on time for my event. And if that happens to you, you're welcome. All right. Now, another thing that can happen in Altspace is you're going to notice occasionally your screen is going to go dark. All right. And the reason this happens, and this happens to really all mobile devices, is because your mobile device, it has a limited amount of memory in it. Right. And all this stuff you see in this room, right? All this stage over here, this big red button that we have on the wall that we use at the end of our events, it does a cool effect that I think you'll enjoy. But all this stuff, it's taking up memory. Now, when that memory reaches its maximum, what's going to happen is your screen is going to go dark. Now, if your microphone's open, your friends will still be able to hear you, so you'll be able to say, I'm having a problem, I'll be right back. But all you have to do when this happens is you hit that bottom button, that bottom eject button, right? and then just press quit and restart the app, and you come back right in. Now, the best way to deal with this is to manage it, ahead of time before it happens. So let's say that you've just been to 3 worlds, and one of your friends says, "Let's go to the campfire." Right? All you need to do is say, "Yeah, sure, I'll catch up in just a minute," and then just hit that eject button and restart the app, and think of this as manually clearing out the memory. This way, your screen doesn't go dark in the middle of an important conversation. So this is you're doing it before it happens, and that can help an awful lot. All right, now let's see. Around this point in time, I usually give building worlds tips now, but I'm a little bit short on time. If you guys want to hear this, throw up some hearts. If not, we'll skip on to the questions and answers. All right, not seeing the hearts. That's cool. So we can skip over that then. All right, awesome. Wait, no, I'm getting 2. All right, 2, 3. I got 3 for the building worlds tips. You guys are builders? Okay, well, I didn't know. All right, let's do this. Then we'll try to get through it quickly. I used to moderate for an event called Building Worlds, and back then, I'd hear an awful lot of Go users saying they couldn't build worlds in Altspace. And you know what? It simply isn't true. The Oculus Go is capable of remarkable precision when it comes to world building. And, why do people get this impression, though? Right? Well, because there are a lot of accomplished world builders in Altspace that use Oculus Go's, and they've done some really beautiful work. But why do people think they can't do it? Right? Well, the reason is because when you first start messing around with the world builder, first of all, if you go into your settings menu and you enable Worlds Beta Program, and you have that, so you'll have it enabled, you'll be able to build worlds in Altspace. But where do people get this impression from is that when you first interact with the world builder, right, you're going to notice that the object starts moving around like it's going all over the place, right? And you think to yourself, what's going on? And it takes you a while to realize that it's your head that's actually controlling the movement of the object. And I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one, right? So what you want to do is on the bottom, when you open up your world editor, on the bottom of that window that comes up, that you're going to notice that there's a lock rotation box. Now, when you click that lock rotation box, it's going to change everything, right? Because now when you point and squeeze your trigger just one time at an object, you'll be able to adjust the level of it with your hand. And as soon as you get it where you like it, if you squeeze and release that trigger one more time, it'll kind of lock it into place, and then you can take a look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, that's nice and level. That looks good, really nice." It makes a good mustache too. It's really nice there. And what you can do there, right, is you can also press and hold that trigger without letting go, and this will enable you to move the object up, down, left, and right. Also your trackpad will come in handy, because if you swipe your thumb from left to right, it'll change the scale or the size of the object. If you swipe your thumb up or down on the trackpad, it's going to push the object away or bring it closer to you. But what you can do also is you can actually carry the object manually to where you want to put it, right? So let's say I put it on the edge of the stage here, right, and place it right like that. What you're going to notice is this doesn't look very nice, because in the real world, that would be on the floor right now. So it's not very convincing. But on an Oculus Go, you don't have to get it perfect. You just have to get it close enough. And once you have it close enough, what you'll do is you'll open your world editor, and on the left side, you'll have a list of all the items that are in that world, right? So we'll see laser pointer there, and next to that will be a cogwheel. And when we press on that cogwheel, a panel is going to open up with all these numbers on it. There'll be numbers for position, there'll be numbers for rotation, there'll be numbers for the size or the scale of the object. And what you want to do is just change those numbers by small amounts to see what happens, right? So if you see it has a position on the X of 20, and you change it to 19, and it'll pop right over here. Now you know, just by lowering that number down, that anytime you lower an X value, it's going to move in that direction toward the window. That must mean if I increase the number, it's going to move toward that wall over there, right? And that must mean if I change the Z value, it's going to move it toward the snack bar over there, or it's going to move toward the screen behind me. And the Y is always going to be up and down, right? And now, and so those changes will teach you a lot. And then, you'll place another object, and then another, and one by one, very gradually, you're going to find that you have your very own world to, share with your friends and to host events in, and, you can show everybody what you've done. It's very rewarding work to do that. Now, also, you're going to notice once you've done this, and, you share that and all that, it's just a great experience. Now, if you're going to have some idea of what a Go can do, at the end of our events, we take everybody to Ravenhall Flight Academy. And there we teach you guys how to fly. And, but when you're there, keep in mind that world was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go. All right. So I'll give you some idea of what you can do. All right. We're a little over on time here, but we've got time for at least one question here. I'm going to open up the participation panel here. So what's going to happen is you see a raise hand button appear on your lower right. And if you want to make a comment or ask a question, just press that raise hand button. I'll see you on the list and give you a chance to, feel all space famous there. And ask your question, I'll get to feel like a radio host, right? Now, also, if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can find us at __ Uncanny Valley. I know that looks like one underscore, but it is actually two. All right, cool. I'm not seeing anybody on the list, but if you do have questions, we'll be able to take them at the Flight Academy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unmute everybody here. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this button on the wall. So if you direct your attention out that window right there, you're going to see a Ravenhall Talon hovercraft float down the street and go up over the trees and come down into the yard. So I'm going to press this button, direct your attention out the window, and watch what happens.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
Right.
There it goes. Now let's go out back and meet it, everybody. If we walk outside now, we'll go able to join it. And if you've learned anything here today, please share it with those you come in contact with. Like, if somebody's saying they're overheating a lot, tell them about the fan, right? Tell them about Go Time. Tell them about our event page and stuff, right? This way, you can help them and you'll feel better and they'll feel better because they have their problem solved. And that's how we keep this thing going. All right, here we go. It's coming down now. Don't worry, it's not going to get low enough to hit you. It does get in close.
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thanks for coming, everybody. You've been a great audience. I'll see you next time.